Hi, welcome to the F&T show. I'm Terynn.
And I'm Fiona, and welcome to episode 3, where we talk about the power of mindset. But first, how's it going, Teryn? How's life? What's going on?
Well, we're shooting, or no, we're shooting. We're recording right now, but it's the
Hmm.
first time today I feel a little bit human.
Yeah, you've been
I
pretty sick.
feel, pardon?
You've been pretty sick.
Yeah, I think COVID and the flu had a baby, and that's what I had. So I'm calling it Flovid. That's what I had, Flovid.
Love it. I love
Yeah,
that name.
this is day 12 of full-on symptoms. Well, obviously I'm near the end of them, but for like a good 9 days. Brutal. 2 days before that, remember I was having all that trouble trying to
You're like all
remember.
spacey.
Yeah, like I could not keep a train of thought. I couldn't remember what I was even talking about. Um, for 2 days before that. Then I went down 9 days of, and then the last
Like you even
few
didn't play
days,
hockey or ringette or anything. Like you were just
oh,
down and out.
yeah, missed two hockey games, a ringette game,
We
work.
missed recording.
Yeah, missed recording. So now we're behind a week. So I guess that everyone. I know, I'm sure,
Stupid
you know,
illness.
we're so popular right now that everyone was like, they were like, where's the episode?
Everybody's so disappointed that we didn't record.
Yeah. They're probably like, oh, maybe they're just, you know,
They're those one
publishing
timers.
bi-weekly.
Yeah, one timers.
Yeah, one hit wonders.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Those one hit wonders made a lot of money at one point.
They did. We did not make any money, so we're gonna come back for more.
We
And
were actually, I had on my playlist is that Kate Bush song. You know the one that was on Stranger Things. You watch Stranger Things with your kids, right? You know
you
that
know I
Kate
don't
Bush
know the names of
song.
artists.
Yeah, but it was that one. Is it running up that
Oh,
hill or
should I stay or
whatever?
should I go? No, that's not it. That's a man.
No, 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 no. The
What?
one that she's always listening to in her headphones. Running up that road. It was like a one hit wonder, I think, back in the 80s.
Wow.
Anyway, so that just goes to show one hit wonders can potentially come back at the right
Yeah. Not for
circumstance.
Teryn, apparently. Although I do remember some
Well,
one hit wonders. Name
your
some that I would know.
one hit wonders? Hmm,
Hmm.
I don't know.
We're cutting this out.
could
Abort, abort.
have. We'll have to do some research on that one. I'm pretty sure I
Yeah.
could think of some, but not off the top of my head. I'd have to do
I
some
want to keep
research
saying
on that.
Ice Ice Baby, but that's not the only one he did, was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Really?
I think so.
An Informer?
Inform. I don't even know what he says. It's way too fast.
Yeah. I just think it says a leaky boom boom
Oh,
now or something.
the Macarena.
Oh, was that a one hit wonder?
Oh, oh, remember the song "I'm Too Sexy"? Too sexy for my.
That's a one hit wonder?
It was, yeah. I just
Wow,
googled it.
we are swirling. Didn't see this one coming. Not in our notes. So what's up with
Yeah.
you?
Oh, not too much. Looking forward to a long weekend. We're recording this just before Easter weekend, so looking forward to 4 days off with my family. As you know, we're going camping. The countdown is on. One more month, and we'll get to go camping every weekend. We have a seasonal spot in our trailer, so
That's when we never see each other ever.
I know you'll just have to come up to the camper.
That is so far away.
Not that far. It's only 40 minutes. Not too bad.
Oh,
It's all in your
God.
mindset, Tran. It's not that bad. Think of the fun you'll have.
Well, we may edit that out, or we may just leave the
What was that?
coughing
A
in.
sneeze or was it a
That's
cough?
a cough.
Oh, okay.
That's my asthma wheeze.
No, never
You'll
good.
or so Colleen's sick too. So we were just watching a video that's very funny. You know, one of those ones that pops up in your Facebook. I'm gonna try not to laugh about it. Because the two of us started laughing so hard. And then we both started doing that to the point where we almost both vomited because we were laughing so
You were
hard.
laughing so hard and coughing.
Yeah, and then almost
Oh,
vomited. Yeah, so it was very attractive. I was like, oh, but we were twins.
you know it's love when you
Yeah.
find that special video.
And yeah, that makes you do the loogies. My favorite.
Oh, your favorite. Yeah.
What did I See, I can't go far without.
You brought your puffer with you.
I have to. And also cough drops.
Cough drops, nice.
Very necessary.
I know in the
We'll
office
see.
today there was a lot of coughing going on.
Was there? There's
And I'm
lots
like,
going around.
I'm just gonna stay in my cubicle and not move.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say, but I already forget again. Uh-oh, maybe it's happening again.
Brain fog.
What was gonna happen? Oh yeah, I think all the listeners, we have so many, are going to think that this is my real voice because we were going to release on March 22nd. So we recorded a little bit here and there, different episodes to learn. But shortly after I had COVID the first time, which is in early January, I got COVID at the gold medal game of the World
Ooh,
Juniors. Fun
yeah,
times. And we didn't record for a little bit when I actually could breathe and not cough.
I know.
Now we're recording again just
And now you're sick.
after Flovid. And yeah, so this is not my real voice. Someday you will hear it.
Flovid.
I
Not
had
real
to be.
COVID combination. You said the
COVID and
flu
the
and
flu,
COVID
like
had a baby.
I shouldn't say was so brutal, still is so brutal. Like my lips are so dry right now. Who knows?
Knock on wood, we've been pretty lucky with the illness department.
Oh,
But
not sure where I got. Yeah, it's funny. Wasn't sick for 2.5 years and then, do life.
because we were home all the time.
This is gonna be our first time we're gonna record an episode from start to finish in one sitting.
No, I hope so.
Imagine. Well, not one sitting because we have free Zoom, so we have to restart the meeting.
Right.
But
Right. So we're gonna
one
have to like
sitting,
redo it. It's all gonna be patched together and you're gonna edit it right beautifully.
yeah,
And it's gonna
right.
be
Some
awesome.
beautiful.
Write some beautiful like. Write some beautiful.
You're very passionate about the mindset thing, Rainbow Unicorn.
Rainbow
Wait,
unicorn.
yeah. So your mindset is usually Rainbow Unicorn.
Not
Sometimes,
always. Not
well,
always.
sometimes you're the cranky Unicornosaurus Rex.
Yes, I try to. It can be hard though.
So let's describe what does Rainbow Unicorn mean for the listeners, because we refer to that a lot, and that's your mindset, and that's how you're known at work.
It is, yeah.
And
I don't. I would say it's more of just trying to find. It drives my husband crazy too, because I always try to find the silver lining.
mm-hmm,
I mean, it's come handy a lot of my life. Some people might call it naive, but I just like to find it. I just like to call it finding the good in a shitty situation because,
mm-hmm.
and I guess that's what mindset comes down to
Where
is
did you go?
I know I'm like, woo.
Oh,
Oh no, I don't know. I had to move. It just comes down to like, what do you want to focus your energy on? Right? Like, do
mm-hmm,
you want to focus on the good or do you want to focus on the bad? Because if you only see the bad,
mm-hmm,
that's all you're going to focus on. And that's the energy that you're going to put out in the world. I know it sounds really fruity, but don't get me wrong. I can rant about, I mean, I've had very many rants with you. I could rant about anything. The best part, like as much as the
mm-hmm.
next
But
person.
you do it in a different way than someone who's angry.
Yeah, I don't get, I don't know if
Yeah,
my
when I say
husband's listening.
Unicornosaurus Rex, I've not actually really seen you.
Yeah, I get frustrated, I guess. I get
Mm-hmm.
frustrated. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
mostly get frustrated if I don't feel heard or maybe validated or if I don't feel like I'm getting my point across or I just don't understand something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I still try to be, in the mindset of, what can I change? What can I change? I've always been in that kind of mindset of, I mean, I'm always improving and I'm learning about it a lot every day. It's something I guess like I'm just passionate about. And it's something that, and like we'll go on and talk about this more, like something that I'm trying to teach my kids too. And I'm still like, even today, I had a moment and you'll have to remind me to talk about this after I say my little spiel over here. I'm actually going to make a note of that in my notes to talk about that.
I'm gonna jot it down right now too.
I don't even know where to put it in.
I'm just gonna
Uh,
say remind Fiona, and then you're gonna say of what, and I won't remember because I don't know
um,
what I'm supposed to remind you, but remind you. Remind Fiona of something.
no,
Kids
I'm making my
something.
notes. We'll put it down here. It's like on page 4 of my little notey notes here. My
Page
notey
four,
notes.
notey notes. So,
My page 4 notey notes. So, I mean, in regards to mindset, it's something that I am passionate about. I'm reading a couple books on it. I've read a couple books on it in the past. I'm not like, so one thing that I'm not consistent with it. Like I try to practice it, but definitely researching it and surrounding myself with information in regards to that is something that I could do a little more consistently, because I do feel that if you bring it to the forefront, you do make it more of a priority in your day-to-day life,
mhm.
as opposed to like getting wrapped up in a negative mindset or
Instead of
whatnot.
getting wrapped up in what, sorry?
A negative mindset, to
Oh,
realize that you do have control over. I mean, of course, negative mindsets are going to happen, but you always have the control as to even a bad situation. You can try and turn it around. What
so
differences.
our mindset and emotions, they're separate but connected, is if I'm understanding. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way that I interpret it, and we're gonna run out of time here again, so we're gonna start this, but that's
That's
okay.
all right.
Like emotions are obviously, something happens and you emotionally react, right? So that's
Hmm.
kind of like more hormonal. I haven't done any research on that, like why you
Oh, but
emotionally
just
respond to that. Like, it's like the dopamine, the serotonin, is that the thing? Hormones, like whether you're mad, angry, sad, happy, there's a lot of like that stuff going on. Whereas mindset, you can blah, I'm all tongue tied.
you can, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
That's going to
You
be a
can
clip. Listen to the FMT show. Blah, blah, blah,
oh,
blah,
it's so bad.
blah.
You can emotionally react, and as human beings, normally that's what we do. That's like our first instinct. I think that
Hmm,
for the most part, we tend to emotionally react, whether we're excited about something, mad about something, sad about something, we emotionally react. But
hmm,
when it comes to like mindset, you kind of can have that moment where, and you can kind of have that internal narrative where you can actually have a conversation with yourself and be like, okay, so this happened.
hmm,
What do I want to do with that?
hmm,
So I think that the more reading I do and the more listening I do, I think mindset is more about having that internal relationship with yourself and that internal narrative conversation with yourself and being like, okay, this is what happened. This is how I emotionally reacted.
hmm.
How do I feel about that? And what do I want to take from this? What do I want to do from this here? How do I want to react?
And how much energy do I want to spend on it? That kind of
And
thing.
how much energy do I want to give it? Not spend on
Okay,
it,
I'm
like
getting
how
it.
much give it, right? So
Hmm.
um I do that all the time. Just trying
Mm-hmm.
to
Well,
be
today
like,
actually, you told me something that really made me mad. And so, especially with my ADHD, sometimes that's quite spiral, right? And then I
mm-hmm,
cannot stop thinking about it, and I cannot stop being annoyed
hyper
and
focus.
frustrated by it.
Yep.
Like it cannot. But it's very tiring.
It is
So,
tiring. It
so
is
today,
tiring, and you're not doing yourselves any favors, like fixating on that stuff, right?
no. So today I talked to you a little bit, let it out, and then wrote down a couple things that I do want. And then normally I wouldn't be able to stop myself, and I'd be like, I wouldn't have even recorded tonight because I would have had to write it down and then think about this,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then I couldn't wait till tomorrow so I could ask my questions, maybe and try to figure it out. And I'm like, first of all, in the scenario that we just discussed, nothing ever really comes of anything anyway. That's a horrible thing. That's a kind of a mindset. So there we go. If I go in with that mindset, nothing probably will come of it, but it's also a reality
Yeah,
for this scenario.
it's a
However,
fact. It's a fact.
it is a
Yep.
fact,
Yep.
but it's not. But I'm going to have the mindset that really one day these kinds of scenarios that we can't really share, but something will come of one of them. So I'm not going to give up, but I'm not going to work as hard as I did when I first had the mindset that everything was fair. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, if these facts and concerns were brought up, something would be done about it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're talking about, mindset? So
Yep.
I've just put down on a piece of paper so it's out of my brain what I want to look at tomorrow, maybe in this scenario,
Yeah.
and
So
sleep
that's
on
like
it.
that's controlling what's in your entity. You can ask the questions, you can do the research, you can look into some things, right? So that
Mhm.
you do have control over. So you're actually taking the steps forward. You recognize things that you can do that are in your control to get the facts or whatnot.
Yeah,
I
and
like
what's in my control. And if they don't do anything with it, then so be it. But also, I'm making myself sleep on it because maybe I won't care quite as much
maybe
tomorrow
you
when I'm
won't
not
care
so mad.
when you're not full of that emotion, right?
Hmm.
The frustration, the rage, the not being heard, the blah blah blah, like the all those things because we do.
I want you to explain to the listeners and me how you deal with the emotions versus like how you control your emotions necessarily and like get on with your mindset, kind of like, oh, see, it was so well worded before I spoke. So as someone who's very rainbow unicorn, and I'm always impressed with how you're able to stay pretty even keeled for the most part, regardless, even in scenarios that, are frustrating or sad or maddening or I don't know, or really exciting. Um, so do you have any tricks? Like, do you recognize your emotions and then do anything to kind of put yourself in the right mindset? Like, do you let them settle to get the right mindset, or does it just kind of
I
come to
kind of
you?
so for me, if I notice I'm feeling, and this has only been, I guess it's something that I've always been kind of good at, but more or less lately, what I've been trying to do is recognize. So if like a big one is anxiety,
Hmm.
if I'm feeling particularly anxious or restless about something, you feel in your body, that feeling, right? And then I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, I recognize this feeling, but what's giving it to me,
Hmm.
right? So it's just asking myself those questions, like if it's something that happened at work,
Hmm.
like, or if something happened like with my kids or, whatever, and if it's making me worried, I just kind of, I'm trying to think of an example. So here's an example. Here's an example, and this is a real life scenario that I can give you. And
Okay.
this is a story that you know. Okay.
Okay.
So we made friends with this couple, and we both had very different definitions of what a friendship meant.
Hmm.
And they went their separate ways. And they did it in such a way that they just like pretty much ghosted us, stopped talking to us, whatever. And we didn't really know why. It just kind of
Hmm.
happened. And which is kind of confusing to me because, and to my husband, because you're like, man, like I haven't lost a friend that just stopped talking to me since I was like junior high or high school. Like,
Hmm.
sometimes you drift apart from friends, but like nothing really happened. But this was like a 1 minute we were friends, and the next minute it was like, boom, brick wall, reach out to them, and there was no response, like complete nothing.
And this is recent.
Yeah, this was recent.
Hmm.
So, and it really bothered me because I couldn't understand. I'm like, I don't know what I did. Like, I'm a good friend. I'm a good person. I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did. Right.
Hmm.
And it took me, and we were close to them. They're at our summer home.
Hmm.
So we saw them quite frequently, and there was just like this awkwardness, this tension. And I just realized like I'm still choosing to carry that awkwardness and that tension. It took me a long time to clue this in because I'd always want to talk about it and I'd always want to be like, oh my gosh, like this is too much, like the anxiety, the sadness, because you're also mourning a friendship. Like obviously
Yeah.
you thought that you had this close friendship that obviously didn't work out. So like there's like that mourning period or whatever. And then it hit me and I'm like, you know what? I have a choice. Like I can give what happened, quote unquote, without, I don't want no details given.
Hmm.
But I can keep going in this circle and keep doing this to myself when really it's not going to change anything,
Hmm.
right? I'm never going to confront them because they feel the way that they feel and I feel the way that I feel. And we're not going to meet in the middle. Like it was just a very boom, cut and dry. That was it. And it
Hmm.
just suddenly dawned on me, like, why am I spending so much time on this when I don't have to,
No,
right?
and why were you? Did you come to any,
Because I was
was it,
because I was hurt.
hmm,
My feelings were hurt, right? Because I
and what
thought
did
that
you, oh, sorry.
I thought that this was like a meaningful friendship, like and I thought that I created bond with these people, and I wish them all the best and all that stuff. Where it was just a very different opinion on of the definition of friendship. I guess, is what it came down to. And it's something that I didn't really understand where they were coming from. And I took it a little too personally when really I should have just taken it as we just had very different visions of what a friendship entailed. And maybe if I had that mindset right from the beginning, it wouldn't have tormented me for like a year, which it did. It was terrible, but I was also kind of doing it to myself. You know what I mean?
No.
That it was because I was hurt. My feelings were hurt, and I was taking it personally.
Okay, so trying to think. So if you both had the same expectations of friendship, you probably wouldn't have been hurt because you would have understood right from the get-go. Is that?
Yeah, there would have been a conversation, right? Like if you like say if you and I had a falling out,
Hmm.
right? I feel like we would be able to have a conversation or a compromise about it,
Hmm.
right? Like if I came to you, and I'm pretty sure we've done this in the past, where if I said, you know, what you said kind of hurt my feelings,
Hmm.
I know that you probably didn't intend it that way, but I'm just letting you know what you did or what you said really
Hmm.
got to me. And then it could have been like, oh shit, sorry, dude. Like,
Yeah.
that's not what I meant. Let me explain
Hmm.
myself. Or even if I did intend it in a way like that, it would be like, okay, well, it would open the door. And once again, to have that crucial conversation of, well, let's talk about it. Let's
Hmm.
see where you're coming from, where I'm coming from, and then let's meet in the middle and move past it. Whereas this case, there was no conversation. The door was not open. It was very cut off, ghosted. And once again, that hasn't happened to me since like, I, I don't even know.
I don't even know if that's ever like that just seems so wow. Like, okay, so
But it,
you were hurt because you didn't know what you uh did, and you knew with your definition of friendship, you were a friend that you thought that fit with your definition of friendship.
yeah, I
But
thought it was a
with
good
their
friend.
definition of friendship, it
was
didn't
was
fit.
was was very different, and there was no opportunity to have a conversation about it. So I
Mhm.
think that that was kind of like the black hole that I was kind of
Mhm.
sinking into, because
Mhm.
I'm a communicator. I like to talk, as you
Right.
know. Um, and there wasn't really given a chance to work through it.
Oh, so is that what you're saying when you're saying different thing of friendship? For you, that means you guys would like talk about it and try to do what you just said, like me and you would do.
Mhm.
But then it
Mhm.
was just cut off. So you
And
were.
even at the end of the day, even if we both didn't agree,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So if we had the opportunity to have a conversation, and at the end of the day we both just didn't agree, like
Hmm.
they thought I did something wrong and they couldn't see past it, then at least
Right.
there was an opportunity to have a conversation, and at least
You
they
would
could
know.
hear from my point of view, right? That I could feel validated or whatever to get at least my side out there, whereas I wasn't really given the opportunity to do that. So I think I struggled
I
a
see.
lot with that, and I think that that's when my feelings were hurt, and I took it personally because I am rainbows and unicorns, and I don't like when people are mad at me.
No, right. Okay, no, I see. And so you were having a hard time. They weren't going to give you that conversation.
Yeah. Yes.
And so you had to deal with that. So you had to change your,
Mm-hmm.
you had feelings about it, but you had to change your mindset. And at first,
Mm-hmm.
did you not have any mindset about it? Or did you like, how would you describe your mindset at first versus what you ended up doing? What mindset
I
you
was
got
just
yourself into?
confused, sad, um, mostly confused
Hmm.
because I didn't understand it.
Is that a
And
is that a mindset or more of like well maybe now's a good time. Can you describe mindset to us?
well, I do have the definition of mindset.
Yes.
Let me
Some
pull
more
it up.
info in the info basket because we're having
Yeah,
this
I actually
conversation.
have that in my little line here.
Yeah, because we're having this conversation, and I think I need some. Well, I think me and the listeners need some. I see where you're going with it, but we're talking about mindset, so I want to see how it plays in here.
So to start from the beginning, even though we kind of jumped and went into like a personal, because you kind of asked me how I dealt with mindset and stuff. But
I'm
so
not sticking to the script, people. I have a hard time.
the squirrels, it's the squirrel.
Well,
The
Lucinda.
def
Go away,
the
Lucinda.
definition of mindset as per the Merriam, is that how you say it? Merriam-Webster.
Yeah, Merriam-Webster, I think. Yep.
So is that mindset is a mental attitude or inclination.
Hmm.
So
And we would describe yours as well, rainbows, unicorns, but that means seeing the silver lining or trying to learn from a situation or see the good in it. Is that?
So my mindset, because of course you can have a negative mindset, don't get me wrong. You could be
Mm-hmm.
like the negative Nancy. You've heard that expression, right?
Or Nancy's.
Negative, I know, sorry, Nancy.
Yeah.
But it's just more or less, so it's your mental attitude, right? So my mental attitude is I always try to find the positive. I
Mm-hmm.
like positive, I like happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I try to understand all points of view. I do try my best. I do try to have an open mind. So that's kind of like my own mental attitude towards a situation and try to keep that open. It's something that my husband and I are pretty good at. We have a pretty good open line of communication in that regard that we try to keep that. It's important. It's an important value, right? So I think if you're just going to sit down and have a conversation with somebody, whether you're on the same page or different, same page, different page, you
Mm-hmm.
got to have that open, got to have a mindset to sit down and have that conversation, right?
Like an open.
Open, maybe
Okay.
positive, right? But if you come to the table with a negative mindset right off the get go, like you're not going to be able to have that important conversation, crucial conversation kind of thing, right?
Can you define negative to me in that for a mindset? What do you mean by a negative? Like not open, or you mean like, I don't know.
Like if you just come in, and I mean, you see it on social media. I mean, you see it on social media all the time where people
Mhm.
just throw these things out in the open without having all the facts and without having all the knowledge, or you've already created. I don't know if this would classify as a negative, but like you've already formed an opinion on the matter without hearing the other person out, and you can't see past your own experiences, maybe.
Okay,
It's
so like negative meaning more limited and not as open, not is that what you mean by negative mindset
maybe.
versus positive?
I never actually looked up negative
Sorry,
mindset.
I'm not interrogating. I'm like whoa, no. So how would you I wouldn't say I feel that you and I can have these conversations about anything even if we don't agree, although a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the time we do agree. Um because we have the same kind of mindset. It overall, however, I wouldn't say, so this is where I'm getting confused, that we have the same mindset. I'm definitely not rainbows and unicorns. So I'm trying to understand. So I might, when I hear that word, people might think I have more of a negative mindset, but I don't feel I do.
No, you don't have a negative mindset.
So, but I don't feel I have a positive mindset if positive means froofy, which I don't think I don't think it does. So do you see what I'm trying to say? I feel I have the
Mm-hmm.
same mindset as you. I don't necessarily try to see
But
the
you don't
good
throw
in
around the
every.
glitter everywhere.
Yeah, I don't go as far as seeing the silver lining in every situation. I think it comes out in there. My goal when I come into a conversation is to see everyone's point of view,
You like
be
facts.
open. Yeah, but on point of view because experience, context, like when we're talking about our marriage scenario before, like the 1500s versus now is different. I
Mm-hmm.
might have a different view or different ideas of what a good compromise is, depending on what the ramifications are, depending on what century we're in, for different situations. Um, and I like to learn, and I feel everyone has their own experiences that count, and they may think of something that I haven't thought of. Imagine that, because I don't know
Mm-hmm.
everything. So I feel in that case that I'm in that scenario, that way I have a positive mindset.
I think when it comes to mindset, I just had a thought there. And this is
Okay.
just off the top. This isn't off. Like I have my notes over here.
Did I keep
But this is
interrupting?
just, I don't think that it necessarily has to be defined as positive and negative. Maybe we're going down
Okay.
the wrong train tracks in saying that because you're meant, your own mindset is yours. It's your own,
Hmm.
So for me to I identify my mindset as I attempt to have it a positive one because that's
Okay.
how I prefer it. But I don't think it necessarily means you're either or,
Hmm. Okay.
right? So I would say your mindset is very much you want all the facts.
Hmm. Hmm.
You want the facts and you want to know as much as you possibly can. But I don't think that would be I don't think that would be considered a positive or negative. So maybe that um narrative maybe not be the right thing.
And maybe I brought us down the wrong path. I was just trying to
No, but it's an
understand what
interesting
he.
one because I was saying those words, right?
Hmm.
But now after thinking about it, I think that, when you said that I was rainbows and unicorns and I try to find the silver lining and that, but that's just my own mental,
Hmm.
like going back to the definition of what a mindset was, that's my own mental
Hmm.
attitude. I like to be positive.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I liked unicorns when I was a kid. I don't know.
And then if we're defining mindsets like that, I think mine is more like I like fair. I hate injustice. So I just like I have a
Mm-hmm.
fair mindset. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not about what I want, what you want, anyone in the conversation wants. It's about what's depending on what we're talking about. It's what's fair, and fair doesn't mean the same.
Nope.
But it just I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I don't like injustice, especially when facts are so obvious.
Mm-hmm. See, you're a
Yeah.
fact taker.
Anyway,
You
but
like
that's
the facts.
okay. I get it because I was gonna say I wouldn't. No one in the world would describe me and you as the same. I don't know what word. No one would describe me as rainbows and unicorns. I can tell you that. But that is definitely a lot of people describe you that way. But I feel
Yeah,
we're the
definitely.
same overall for
Yeah.
discussions. So yeah,
Yes,
that was
I
just
love
confusing
having
me.
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to find the positive and stuff, but I think that that's like my own personal thing because once again, if you focus too much on maybe the things that you can't change instead of the things that you can change, maybe that's where my rainbows and unicorns come from. Or if I'm met with a situation that is difficult,
Hmm.
um, or you can't, that it's hard to navigate or get around, um, you have that choice on where you can spend your energy. And
That is where we differ
I
in a way.
prefer I prefer to find a solution instead of fixate on the problem. Maybe that's what my rainbows and unicorns is. This is a little
Maybe, but I
therapy
also
session.
prefer to find a solution. And the only reason I dwell on a problem is when
It doesn't
it
make
seems
sense.
that the solution could be easily.
Very obvious. Yeah.
We always have that discussion because it is true. I get the don't focus on what you can't change. And I know that when you say that, you also realize things can be changed. I think it's a matter of how much energy you want to put into that particular thing that you could change. Because when we speak at work, right,
Mhm.
to me, everything can be changed. I
Mhm.
mean, not everything, but a lot of the things that we discuss,
Some things are easier to change than others. Yeah.
absolutely. But the things we discuss usually can be changed. But my problem is I want to fight for them all. And I think that you decide to not put your energy into everything. Does that
No,
make,
that's right. Yeah, that makes
is
sense.
that where we're different?
Maybe. Maybe it's just
Hmm.
it's that whole like what you want to spend your bucks on, right? You
Well,
want to spend your
yes,
bucks on
yes.
everything all the time.
Then I guess I have different levels of fucks that I can put one, okay, this problem can't be worked on yet, but I'm still not going to really forget about it. It's still going to be,
For
I'm
every
not
fuck
going to put it,
I have about 5 unicorns.
what did, what did you say?
Said for every fuck that I give, I have about 5 equivalent unicorns. So I have to
Oh,
figure it
that's the
out.
balance. Oh my God. Okay, so that, and
It's
then you're like,
kind of
oh,
funny.
if I'm gonna fuck about this, then look at
Yeah.
my unicorns. And I have no unicorns. Interesting. So I just have
Um,
all these piled up. Okay, so
you need to borrow some of my unicorns.
you see, most of the time when I hear people go, I don't focus for me. I don't focus, or I only focus on what I can change. Most of the time when they're saying that, I feel that what I'm talking about could be changed for me, like in my opinion. So I don't think, and I sometimes you say it, and I know, and I think what you really mean is you're gonna put that lower on your fuck level.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's
Is that,
what you choose, and it's what you choose to focus on too, right? So, as an example, and if my husband listens to this, I don't know if he'll get a kick out of the story or not, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
Slowly.
We were driving in traffic, and he was observed, like we were driving on the highway, and he was observing all the people that were speeding. Right,
Mhm.
so we're on the highway, people are speeding past us, we're doing the speed limit, right? And he
Following
goes
the
on a little
rules.
he's going on a little tangent, like, oh, that guy's speeding, and that guy's speeding, that person's speeding, because they're all passing us, right? We're in one lane and they're all zooming past us. So they're obviously
Hmm.
speeding because we're going right at the speed limit. And I'm like, but in that moment, I realized, once again, I'm doing a lot of reading, listening to a lot of podcasts. So I just said to him, I'm like, but you're not really observing all the people that aren't speeding. You're only focusing on the people that are breaking the rules and that are speeding because they're obvious. They're right there. You can see them driving past you. You're not paying attention to the person behind you doing the speed limit because they're doing the exact same thing as you. So they're not going to come past you. They're not going to make themselves obvious. Or the person in front of you that you're traveling from a safe distance because you're both going
Hmm.
the speed limit. Right. So right away, you're choosing to focus that energy
Mm.
on the people that are just, maybe the half a dozen people that are zooming by you and speeding. But that was enough for you to, you know, point it out, say it out loud, make a conversation about it. So I
Hmm.
guess that's where I come from. Whereas if it was me, I would just acknowledge the fact that you can choose, right?
Now, just in that scenario, I get it's interesting as to why that, like, I don't think he was driving along the road thinking, ooh, I'm in the mindset that I'm going to focus on people. Like, obviously, some that bothered him for a reason, but then I think what you're saying is that he could only think about that, and then he's going to go down
Mm-hmm.
more, and like, and then, so his mindset is those were
And
his
then it's,
feelings,
yeah,
and then he could take a rest. Does that make sense? So his feelings, that's the human reaction.
right. So that's the thing. Like he was emotionally reacting, right?
Right.
People speeding, right? And then he had to point it out, speak it out, blah blah blah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Whereas if it was me driving in the car by myself, I'd been like, oh, there's another guy that's speeding, and I probably wouldn't mind any notice.
Okay.
Now, for me, like a recent mindset, which I told you about last week, is I'm trying to get back on my writing journey.
Hmm.
As we said in our intro, Terynn and I are writers. We're working on our novels, and it's something that I'm trying to apply mindset, my own personal mindset, into motivating myself because I'm my own worst enemy. Um, I find my writing to be a very vulnerable activity, so I'm trying to push past that and get comfortable with it. So one day after work, my husband said, you should go write. Like I'll take care of supper, I'll take care of the kids. Like just after work, don't even
Daily.
just go home or don't even come home. Just leave work and go write. He said this to me first thing in the morning.
Wow.
I
Husband of the
know.
year.
And he had called me later on at work and he's like, so you're going to go write? You're going to go do it? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. You're working 8 hours. I don't know how much brain energy I'm going to have, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you should just go do it. Just go do it. So finally after work, I get off work and I'm walking to the truck. And I called him. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. I have an opportunity. I'm going to take advantage of it. I got to get out of my own way,
Hmm.
right? And I'm going to go write. And he's like, oh, he was so excited. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy for you. You're going to do it. Like, he was really, really good.
Hey.
And I know he's so sweet. So I get to the library. I go to the library just down the street from my house. And I'm sitting there. I got my laptop. I got my notebooks. I forgot my headphones, which kind of sucked because I didn't, usually they're in my bag, but I must have taken them out at some point. I didn't have them with me. So that was kind of annoying, but whatever. Library is a quiet place, right? It was not quiet. And I was so frustrated. And I was getting angry. There was like kids yelling. There was like all this talking, um, kids screaming. I was like, what is this? Like, this is not my definition. And I was getting like, I, I was getting frustrated,
Oh,
right?
was the Unicornosaurus Rex out?
Yes, I was frustrated. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is ridiculous. I couldn't focus. I couldn't do anything. Like I wasn't even trying to write. I was just trying to brainstorm, where I wanted to go and like what chapters, kind of get a game plan if I'm going to do this a couple times a
Hmm.
week, to kind of have like a template of what I'm going to write each day. And I couldn't think, and there was no thoughts coming. It was just like my brain was this big cloud of blah,
Of madness.
just madness. And then all the chaos that was happening around me. There's like teenagers running around, and kids screaming, and I just couldn't focus, and I was
Well, I
getting
can't
I was
imagine
getting
why.
angry and frustrated.
Hmm.
And I was like, screw this, I'm just gonna leave. And it wasn't until I don't know. I think I was driving home and I was still kind of fuming. I was still sitting and I'm like, man, like this sucks. Like I really wanted to write. Like I'm really excited about this project, this new book that I just started, and I really wanted to bang out some ideas and get the creativity flowing, blah, blah, blah. And then I realized that I wasn't really frustrated over the noise. I was frustrated at myself, right?
Mhm.
Because here I had taken this opportunity and I had hummed and hawed about it all day long about am
Mhm.
I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? Am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? Going back and forth, back and forth. And then I finally did it for myself. And then I sat down and my mind was blank and I blamed the noise and everything that was happening around me, right? Instead of just being like, you know, I was frustrated with myself because I couldn't think of anything.
Well, it is hard to think when there's noise.
It
However,
is,
I see what you're saying.
right? So it's just like that. So knowing that maybe the library isn't the best place for me to go, or maybe it was just um a busy day in the kids section or whatever that people had taken their kids, and maybe it's normally not like that,
Right. I want, yeah. Was it a PD
right?
day? Was it Thursday?
No, I think it was Wednesday, the day before the PD day, so maybe that's what it
Oh, so
was.
maybe. Hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, but then the minute I was like, hey, maybe I'm just really just frustrated with myself and I need to, let it go, kind of forgive myself and be lenient with myself. Like, don't beat myself
Hmm.
up just because I didn't come up with any ideas,
Hmm.
and maybe just plan better, pack my headphones, maybe try Starbucks or find a quiet Tim Hortons or, find another alternative that might work better in my
Ooh, well,
favor.
pick somewhere that you're gonna write so that when your book is famous, people
Mm-hmm.
will flock to this location.
I know. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
It's good publicity for this place, not the kids section of the library
Not the
that you
kids
went
section
to.
in the library. No.
Yeah.
So it's just
Um,
something that like I'm trying to work on as well. I think
And
it's
that's, I really like what you said about forgiving yourself instead of beating, because
forgiving.
then I guess mindset is a lot of self-talk and what you think of what you believe of yourself and self-talk, like
Well,
you said.
it's that internal narrative, right?
Hmm.
Ooh, look, I disappeared again.
Now do that again. It looked like you smashed your head on the couch behind
So
you. Like, oh man. I
got
like
orange
the orange
pillows.
pillow.
Did you notice that? I was gonna say.
I do like the orange. I have red behind me. Close. It was close.
So yeah, I think that like mindset is also that internal conversation that you have with yourself, right? So, ooh, I disappeared again.
Yeah, you are gone.
Oh,
I'm speaking to no one. Oh. We're going to do an episode on ghosts.
ooh, we
So
are gonna do that. That'll be fun. So if you're rough on yourself, in that internal narrative, that internal mindset, when you're being rough with
mhm,
yourself and you're telling yourself that you can't do this, and you just get
mhm.
frustrated with yourself instead of
Yeah,
finding
I
the
do.
tools to maybe help that a little better.
So that comes into play, like, so two people could have the exact same, and this never happens, but let's say two people have the exact same experiences. So they're really difficult and negative, um, and they didn't feel good about themselves. But if they continue with their internal narrative that the world is out to get them and they are
Mm-hmm.
no good, versus the same exact same scenario, the internal narrative is, I couldn't control that. That's not my fault. It happened to me. I have worth.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
And they're
that's
gonna,
if you have the mindset like, oh, the world's out to get the world's out to get me, nothing goes right, blah blah blah. Like if you even think about like I had a if you even think about that narrative, like, oh my gosh, that would be I would feel so powerless. Like having that mindset, like powerless, having
right.
that mindset of like the world's out to get me and these things always happen to me, you know, to have that mindset, I would feel powerless that I wouldn't be able to change it. Right.
Mhm.
Whereas if
And
you,
you,
like you said, if you said, okay, this situation happened to me, I'm behind on my bills or blah, blah, blah. Like, even though it doesn't change the fact that you're behind on your bills, but there are steps that you can take to get caught up on your bills.
hmm.
Right.
Or
So maybe just to shift the focus to be like, okay, what can I do to improve it?
right, you might not be able to get caught up on your bills, but
It
like
might
that
take
minute,
time.
but and if you can't, yeah, what can I do to maybe get caught up on them? what can I do in the meantime when I can't,
Mm-hmm.
like what solutions? Like, can I speak to one of these bill, let's say it's your rent. Maybe your landlord would understand, or the bank, whatever. There's different ways maybe
Yeah,
that you could speak to the people that to which you owe the money, to whom you owe the money, and work something out or different scenarios. Wow, you are.
I know. I'm so grainy. It's this
Good
stupid
thing the
thing.
YouTube channel is not our main source of entertainment. Well, we're still working on our technical stuff. We didn't
Yeah,
claim to be technical wizards.
bear
We
with
claim to be
us.
podcasters. So we know that, but we are not. Someday, maybe we'll be able to hire people. Who knows?
That would be
If
nice.
not, you're stuck with this crap.
Well, maybe I'm just meant to be a grain of sand for our
A
whole
grain of,
podcasting career.
you're just one little grain of sand in the
Just
world,
I
but an
know.
important grain of sand.
Oh, a grain of sand.
You're the grain of sand that got in my bathing suit. Yeah, my mindset. No.
So, in continuing my journey on mindset and what it is, I did find out that there are two different types of mindset. So there's your
Mm,
fixed mindset and your growth mindset.
okay.
So your fixed mindset is your abilities, your fixed traits that can't be changed. Okay. Trying to explain this the best that I can.
That I
So
believe
th-
that I have things that can't be changed, or I
no, this
do.
this would be stuff like your fixed mindset would be like your natural talent, right? So like Sidney Crosby, naturally good at hockey. I'm just using that as an example.
Mhm.
I don't know if he was naturally good at hockey right from a young age, or
I
I'm
feel he
trying to
came
think
out
of
of the
anybody.
womb. Yeah.
Just things that you're naturally good at.
But he didn't.
Okay.
He worked at it.
That's your growth mindset,
Yeah.
right? So
I
these are
mean,
things that you're always going to try to improve upon. It's not something that's fixed. Like you're fixed. Like I'm a fast reader. I don't even know if that would be even class. I don't even know if you could use that because that's
no,
what's
I think I know what you
fine.
mean. Your abilities and your fixed stuff. So like if I decided um I can't draw. I just can't draw. Um, but I could, like, I'm gonna
Learn.
say I'm not natural or I can't sing. Yeah. Some people are not going to ever maybe get to the level like singing. I don't think I would ever necessarily, but again, see, so if it's a fixed mindset, I would say I will never be a professional singer. Well, I mean, if I really wanted to, maybe I
You
could
can
be.
learn.
Yeah, I'd learn and see. And you know what? There are some things in the world people are not going to be able to do as well as they might want,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not fixed. I could be a better singer than I am now.
But
Would
you're
I
just not
maybe be as good as Mariah Carey? Well, actually, I don't know. I didn't
you're,
try.
you're
I'm
just not
thinking
yet.
not,
You're not yet, right?
but if I
But
had a fixed
within
mindset, I would say I'll never be Mariah Carey. Done.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So like you're not naturally Mariah Carey, right?
Imagine.
But that's the fixed mindset. But with the growth mindset, you would say to yourself, I'm not Mariah Carey yet. What are the steps that I can do so that I can become as good as Mariah Carey? Right? With a
Hmm.
lot of patience and perseverance and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Persistence. You could get there. So I apply that a lot to like my writing.
Hmm.
Like I'm not a published author yet.
Hmm.
I'm not, you know, a polished writer yet. Like obviously the first thing that I spit out isn't going to be like perfect. It's going to take many, many rewrites. And I find that very, very overwhelming. But that whole practice of, okay, yet, I'm not there yet. But if I never ever try and if I never ever keep going, it's going to end right there. It's just going to stop. Right?
Right. You'll never know what you could be.
You'll never know.
So with a fixed mindset, you'll never actually know what you could be,
Either
except
you're
for
good at it, you're either good at it or you're not. That's a fixed
right.
mindset.
So if you were like naturally, and that's not even really true because like someone that's good at hockey, no matter how good they are, they practiced it. It's not like Sidney Crosby doesn't work
Mm-hmm.
at it. But
Mm-hmm.
I know what they mean. Like Sidney Crosby had this natural ability to begin with that was like
Mm-hmm.
they think, we don't know if this is true, like way better than theirs to begin with. But
Same as
I
Mariah
know
Carey. She must have been naturally good at singing.
this
But
came out of the womb.
obviously she still needed like a voice coach and, a team and everything like that to teach her all the things,
Hmm.
with scales and all that stuff. But
Right. And if she
not
had a fixed
very,
mindset, like I'm such a good singer, and that's she just didn't work at it, she just did it.
she might not
She
have
may
been as
not be where
successful.
she was either. So even though she
Mm-hmm.
still might be
I like
awesome,
that. I like
Mm-hmm.
that. So the story that I found online, you remember the story about the tortoise and the hare?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good thing about like fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. So I'm just going to read. I've got a little snippet version here. So the hare was so certain that he would win the race that he sat down and went to sleep during the race. The tortoise just plodded on and kept going, always thinking that he had a chance of winning. And when the hare woke up, he started running as fast as he could, but he was just too late. The tortoise had won. So the hare had a fixed mindset where he automatically assumed he was going to win because he was the faster of the two,
Mm-hmm.
right? He believed that his innate ability would always mean that he would win whatever he did.
Mm-hmm.
The tortoise had a growth mindset. He believed that he needed to work hard and keep going if he was going to win. He was also not afraid of failure, or he would never have agreed to race the hare. I think that is also very important, right? I love that. He is also not afraid of failure.
Mm-hmm. That's
Isn't that
important.
huge?
That is important because I find that often before I start most anything, I first think that I have to be really good at it or perfect or know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I'm going to do the whole time. Like, so with this podcast, when will we record? Let's set up the schedule. Blah, 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 and but
Yeah.
no, that made us just not do it.
It was
Right. And even,
overwhelming.
yeah. And even tonight, like, I'm not even sure if the sound quality is that good. I can't tell because we're not that technical, but you know what? We're doing it.
I'm
And,
a grain
if
of
it's,
sand.
and you're a grain of sand and you may be a tinny voice, but you know what? We'll put that out there. It's one of our first episodes. We'll warn, we'll let you
We'll
know,
figure
oops, sorry about the audio video, but the content's the same.
we're
And
putting
we're
it
not
out
going to let
there.
that stop us.
Right.
Yeah. So we're the tortoise,
We are the tortoise.
the
We're
tortoise of
willing to shift.
podcasters.
We're willing to shift shapes, right?
We're
So I
willing to
actually found
fail.
this really good quote. This quote is from a book called The New Science of Learning: How to Learn in Harmony with Your Brain. So I found this quote really good. So this is a book by Terry Doyle and Todd Zakrajsek. I can't say the last name. We'll link it in show notes. I apologize to Todd for
Yeah.
massacring his name. Love your quote though. I think it's great. I actually want to pick up this book and read it as well. So the quote says, "One thing about human intelligence is absolutely certain. It is malleable, meaning it could be changed through exposure to new information or even by looking at what you already know in a new way. There is no limit to what you can learn, and contrary to what some may think, nobody's brain has ever been filled." Like, isn't that so cool?
And so
It's
true.
so true. Because every day your brain's learning, right?
Well, that's what when I coach children, that's what I try to say. Even Sidney Crosby can still be coached. He can still learn
Yep,
new things, even though he's one of
yep.
the best.
And he can still miss the net, right?
Yeah. He's
He
not
can
perfect.
still. He's not perfect. He could be having a bad day. He could be distracted or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just I just thought that was a really cool quote. I like that.
It was a very good quote.
So with that, I did do some, and we kind of touched on it a little bit with our tortoise and the hare reference. Um, about the whole mindset thing of like not being afraid to make mistakes is number one. To like to create safety around your mindset. You know that if you want to try something new, like don't be afraid to make mistakes and fail. Because they say like a lot of the successful people in the world have failed how many ventures before they hit success, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when I was reading this part, it actually, I could identify that as a lot as a parent, like trying to tell my children, like, try new things, expose yourself to new things, don't be afraid to, I mean, they learn how to ride their bike, and how scary is that?
Not very scary.
To balance on something that you've never ever balanced on, and they get up there and they go and they fall and they hurt themselves, they get right back on and go, right? But that's like the whole growth mindset is we can't be afraid to make mistakes. We
Mm-hmm.
can't be afraid to fail, because if you don't try, you'll never know what you can accomplish.
Right. And um, I do like to ask myself, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? If the answer is death, that is something I may not try, or severe injury. But for the most part, then
Yeah.
as I get older, it's easier if the answer is people will laugh at me. As a child, that's not as fun, right?
No, no.
What's the worst thing that can happen? People will laugh at me. So, but as I get older, um, it's easier to not care as much what people think.
Not
So I do
yeah.
find you know, I find it easier to try things as I get older, which is funny because I think some people find the opposite, but
Well, it's interesting because like it can push us out of our comfort zone, right? Like
that's how
if you get rid of that, if you acknowledge the fear, like you can't completely dismiss the fear because sometimes, especially like in my case, the vulnerability and putting my writing out into the world, that's a legit fear,
Mhm.
right? But it's also kind of pushing me out of my comfort zone where I posted like that thing on that writers group on Facebook where I would never have done that before. And I'm like, you know what, I got to push the boundaries. And I put some of my writing out into the world and people commented on it and it was good. It was, good feedback. There was criticism, but it was constructive criticism. It was done in such a way that I
Yeah.
didn't go hiding back in my cave, right?
Yeah, it wasn't. So when I hear criticism, I think of negative, but I know what you mean. Yeah, it was
Constructive
constructive
criticism.
criticism. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
love constructive criticism.
well, and I think part of the fear is if I knew everyone had a growth mindset or could have a crucial conversation,
Mm,
or then I probably wouldn't be as scared
that's true.
about a lot of things or as anxious. Often people aren't even having the same conversation.
Hmm.
They think they are. The question's the same and they think they're answering it, but if you're not coming at it with the same goals or intent, you're not having the same conversation and sometimes you don't even know it.
Yeah, that's
Does that
true.
make sense? So
Yeah.
so that's why I'm not too nervous to try too much new with you
Mhm.
in that way,
Mhm.
right? Because
It's
even
like,
if you did, like, let's say, remember one time we were going to do tap
oh,
dancing,
oh my gosh.
I'd still be a little nervous about that because that's like a physical movement in front of people. But what are you going to do? I know you're not going to like totally make fun of me.
No, it would have been
So,
fun. So I found this other quote that I really identified with. I'm like the quote queen tonight, I guess. Um, and so when I did the notes for this episode, and it was a couple weeks ago, and as I said before, I'm kind of on this new mindset journey in regards to my writing. I'm applying it to my own personal um, goals, I guess, dreams, whatnot. So I took down this quote and I kind of a backstory to it. I saw this quote when I was doing the initial research. So it's by Dr. Andrew Huberman, and it goes, provided they don't compromise safety, errors during learning are terrific because they increase activation of the neural circuits that increase alertness. Makes sense, right? If you perform something correctly, why should your brain take notice? When we make errors, it feels stressful, but that is just an increase in attention that puts us in a better place to perform and execute learning related behaviors the next trial, meaning on the next attempt. So I really like that because it goes
mm-hmm.
back to the whole, you got to give yourself kind of permission to feel uncomfortable and to sit in it and to be okay with it. So I read that quote. I loved it. I identified it. Had no idea who Dr. Huberman was.
Mm-hmm.
And just 2 weeks ago, um, I got all caught up on this true crime channel that I was listening to on YouTube while I work. So I was like, man, I need like a new podcast or something to listen to. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe there's one out there on unlocking creativity or the science behind creativity. Like that's kind of what I was more aiming towards, like something like maybe not necessarily scientific, but how could I really get those creative juices? How could I open myself up and be an okay to vulnerability and to just really not care and go out there and
Mm-hmm.
just do the work, right? Even if nobody else read it, it's for my eyes only at this point, like, but to get out of my own way and to do the work. And the first thing that came up was an episode of this Dr. Andrew Huberman
This was
on
after you found
YouTube.
this quote.
Yeah, yeah. I had no idea who this guy was. And I honestly didn't even know that he was the one that did the quote until I reviewed my notes today. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. So the
Wow.
first thing that came up, I can't even remember what I punched into YouTube, but something about, unlocking creativity or whatever. And this is the first thing that came up. It was one of his shows. It's 3 hours long. And it's a show with Rick Rubin. who is like a big time music producer, and he's the author of a book called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. And I just found them both very interesting to listen to, and just to see where they both came from. It like I don't know much about Dr. Huberman, but I think he's like a brain dot, like a brain. I don't even think you can really put this in there because I'm not even 100% sure, but he's something to do with your brain. He's pretty important.
Neurologist, neuroscientist,
Something
psychologist,
like that. Yeah,
brain
something like
dude.
that. Brain
Dr.
dude. We'll call him
Huberman,
brain
brain
dude.
dude.
He's a brain dude.
Brain
He's
dude.
very good to listen to. I enjoyed him. It's very scientific. Like some of his stuff, I've listened to a couple of his shows. It's very scientific. And as we learned in the first episode, I am not scientifically inclined, but it's just interesting listening to him explain things.
And our
Uh,
scientific name for him is brain dude.
Brain dude. Sorry, Dr. Huberman. I like your shows. If you ever listen to this,
I like your shows.
I like your shows. So yeah, I can't wait to read this book by Rick Rubin, who was his guest on the show. I'm on the wait list for it on the library, so I'm pretty excited to read it.
Am I going to read it in the kids section?
I know, asshole.
At least once an episode, you must call me an asshole.
Oh, asshole every episode. Oh, so my we'll go back to my example.
Well,
Um, for I don't even remember how we were talking about this. And I said I was gonna use, was it something about accepting things the way that they were? Remember when I said to question me about my example?
oh, remind Fiona of kid something, page 4, notey notes. Was that what I was supposed to remind you?
About what we said. To go back and reference
Something. Page 4 of your notey notes.
for naughty no.
And you said the word notey notes. So it must have been. Didn't you
I
put
think
it
it
in
was
here?
yeah, but only where I wanted to talk about it, but I can't remember what we were talking about in reference to that I wanted to bring it up. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's another mindset example. Oh, things that this is kind of like a mindset thing that made me like pause and go, So I have a
Things that
teenager.
make you go, hmm?
This is kind of like this could be our wrap up for mindset. And it kind of ties into the whole like parenting thing that I kind of have,
Mindset.
applying mindset to parenting skills. So like my little, I don't even know, this might be edited out. My
Edit.
little thing
Edit.
that kind of made me go, it kind of made me question. So like my teenager, he's in junior high, and he's had some issues in the past with, bigger kids, kind of picking on him a little bit. And he came to me last week and he was frustrated by it. And he's like, I just don't know what to do. Like, it's just really frustrating. And he's very much like, he reminds me so much of you. He's not your biological child. We're just going to throw that disclaimer, but he reminds me so
Absolutely.
much of you because he's just like, I don't understand. I don't even talk to them. I have nothing to do with them, but they go out of their way to try and make me feel uncomfortable. It's like, I just don't understand it. Like, I don't understand it. Right. And it's
Mm-hmm.
making him all upset. And he's getting frustrated. And I said to him, and I'm like, well, and this is how I coached him last week. And it just goes to show, but then something, I'll keep going. So I said to him, I'm like, well, really, you have three choices in my mind. Like, let's talk about it. You have three choices. I'm like, you can say something, right? And call them on it. And what's that going to accomplish? And he's like, well, it could escalate and it could get worse. Okay. And I'm like, you can continue to not say anything and just let it bother you the way that it is now. And I'm like, and what would that accomplish? Like, what are the natural consequences from that choice? And he came back and he told me, and he's like, well, then I would just be suffering in silence. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, or you can just ignore them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what would be successful from that? And he's like, well, that they would just lose interest or maybe they would just stop. I'm like, okay, so based on those three decisions, what do you want to choose? What do you want to pick? And he's like, oh, I think I'll just ignore them. And I'm like, good for you. Right. So fast forward to a week later, and I saw something on social media. Social media can be a good thing, but it can also it can be a bad thing, but it can be a good thing too, because it can give you perspective on things that you never really thought of, which I do love for mindset because it just gives you a different angle to be like, I never really thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about basically calling bullies out on their BS. That if you never ever say anything, they're going to grow up their whole life thinking that it's okay to treat people like that, right? And I
I was
just
gonna
found that
say
really what
for option one of the it could escalate, or
they
they
could
could
stop.
actually have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
But
But then it comes into like the whole, I guess I was leaning towards like it would escalate. Like I was going back to like Dr. Huberman's first line in that quote where it says, provided they don't compromise safety. So safety is a big thing. And, you know, teenagers, teenage boys, whatever, like there's that whole thing as well.
hmm.
But
Oh,
I
I
guess,
wasn't questioning your thing. I was just saying that's a possibility, but probably less likely. If these kids are already doing that behavior, you're right.
yeah,
It's
like
most
there's
likely going
that,
to escalate.
it's a risk, right?
Yeah,
But at
yeah.
the same time, like the options that I kind of gave him, looking back now from a parental point of view and as a mindset thing, like I didn't, none of them really gave him the opportunity to stand up for himself, right? And if that was an option, what would that look like? Like we didn't really have a conversation based around that because I could tell that he was frustrated and I could tell he didn't agree with it. And he was calling them, like with me, he was calling them on their BS,
Hmm.
you know, and calling like they didn't have a right to say these things to him, that he wasn't bothering them, so they should mind their own business. What rights did they have? Like this is basically the things. And you know, he's not wrong,
Mm-mm.
you know, and I don't want to say I missed an opportunity because I'm could be an opportunity that I had down the road, but I would really like to have that mindset conversation of, okay, you want to stick up for yourself. What does that look like?
Hmm.
Right? Just, I don't know.
Is
I don't
that
even
what
know
you
if
guys
that's relevant.
discussed? You said this is a week later, so that's now you have had
Yeah.
this discussion.
Well, we haven't had it. No, this just
Oh,
kind of came to light today where I saw something on social media, like just today, about calling bullies and mean people out on their BS. But I'm sure you can do it in such a way that, you know, maybe it won't escalate. But once again, the wild card being you don't know how other people are going to react,
right. And
right? And anybody can say anything on the internet. So if you're bullied on the internet and then you say something and back, you
oh
know,
yeah.
you're protected by the screen. Whereas when it's in person, it's a little harder because there's that like safety thing and you can't control how other people are going to react. So,
No, and if they're already doing this kind of behavior, like we just discussed, it's you're gonna assume or err on the side of that they're probably not gonna be very receptive.
yeah, that
Right.
there's some
So
risk
what is
there.
the social media are you going to explain? It actually gives it just says stand up for yourself, or does it give suggestions?
Well, it was just like um, person I follow on Instagram was being targeted by bullying, and she
Mhm.
basically called them out like on social media,
Wow.
like big time, and like used the person's name and everything in front of like all their followers and stuff. And I guess the person came back and was not very happy. And her stance was like, well, if you've got the nerve and the guts to try and bully me online for what I'm speaking to, you know, I have the right to call you out on bullying me because bullying should be a thing. I don't think
Well, no, this
anybody
is
has.
what I used to say all the time. My rule was always if what you did or said you wouldn't want published in the newspaper because you'd be embarrassed, then don't do or say it.
Don't do it. Yeah. Well, it's that whole golden rule: do unto others as you would have done to you,
Right?
right? Like
Because
you wouldn't
I can
want
say
someone treating
something,
you like shit.
yeah, but I could say something negative or something factual that people might not like. But if it's true, I don't have a problem putting it in the newspaper.
If everybody worked on their mindset a little bit every day, you'd be amazed what you can cover
Hmm.
and the internal narrative. So I'm trying to work on my internal narrative. My internal, like my mindset projected out in the world, I think is pretty good, but my internal, like how I kind of talk to myself needs work. So I'm working on that. It's going pretty good.
I'm sure most people's needs work. And that's it for mindset. Be the tortoise.
Be the tortoise. Yeah, grow that
Believe
shit.
you can, and don't be afraid of failure.
Yeah, give it a go. You never know unless you try.
Definitely. All these cliches. It is true.
It is, yeah.
You do
You
learn
never
from your
know what you can
mistakes.
accomplish. And if you just stay in that comfort zone, you'll never
Yeah.
push yourself beyond
All
that,
the
right?
cliches. Get out of your comfort zone and be the
Yeah.
tortoise.
Be the
Tortoise,
tortoise.
tortoise, tortoise.
Even though
All
I do
right.
like naps, I wouldn't mind a nap
I do. You want to be the hare sometimes?
sometimes.
Be the hare sometimes. Take a nap, but don't take a cocky nap.
Don't take a cocky nap. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Take a
Don't
restful
just go
nap,
to
but
sleep
don't.
thinking, I'm going to win no matter what.
I
Take a
like that much
nap.
better.
Yeah. Take a nap to recharge your mindset and your
Yes,
body.
yes.
No cocky
Okay.
naps.
And that's it. Thanks so much for listening. The show really wouldn't be possible without you. If you're a fan of the show, please leave a review on where you listen to your podcast. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at F&T Show Podcast and on YouTube at the F&T Show. Links are in the show notes.
Thanks, Fiona. Thanks to everyone listening at home. Until our next episode, we leave you with this. We are all on Team Human. And of course, don't forget to be smart and shit. And be the tortoise.
We'll just keep growing at every episode.
Be the tortoise, be the tortoise.